You are listening to the Lawyer Stories podcast with host Benny Gold. Lawyer Stories was founded in July 2017 and is an expanding global network of lawyers and law students sharing their personal journeys to the noble profession of the practice of law. Join us on this podcast as we dig deeper into these stories and hear from lawyers and law students from around the world in all areas of the legal profession. Here at Lawyer Stories, we believe that every lawyer has a story. What's yours?
Welcome to the Lawyer Stories podcast with Benny Gold. Today we welcome in Brett Trembly, partner at the Trembly Law Firm in Miami, Florida, a best-selling author and co-founder of Get Staffed Up. How are you?
Benny, man, thanks so much for having me. Look, I got to clear the record though before we get started. My book hit the #1 new release, but not quite the #1 best-selling author. So I don't want to take credit, for something I didn't accomplish. So
all right, well, we'll continue rolling. We'll let you off the hook on this.
Thank you, man. Let's let it slide. All right,
I'll let that one slide. But thanks for joining us. I'm sure it's a beautiful day in Miami. I'm here in cold central Massachusetts. So tell us where you're from originally.
If you've never met anyone who was born in New Mexico,
okay,
now you have.
Well, it's interesting because that was going to be my question. One of my questions, how'd you end up was it East New Mexico State or something like that? How'd you end up back there? What is that? Did I get that right?
Yeah, it's Eastern New Mexico University.
Okay. Well, I just made up a school, and hey, you made up that you were a best-selling author, so.
It might as well be Eastern State University College, whatever the heck. So yeah, look, New Mexico has about 1.5 million people. Most of them, I guess probably most places, born, live, and die there. So, I met so many people here in Florida that would tell me you're the first person I've ever met who, from New Mexico before. So yeah. That used to be my claim to fame in talking about where I'm from. Now the reference is Breaking Bad, right? Or Better Call Saul. Everybody knows the show, and so
okay,
that's a reference point. So I was born there, went to school there, and then after 5 years of college, I took a victory lap where I was student body president, and I had 3 hours each semester. It was just like the best year with only fun had. I came out to University of Miami School of Law in 2005, and I've been here ever since.
Wow. So how did you select Miami?
They had a sports law program, and I was interested in that. And then I got a pretty good deal offer to be a live-in graduate advisor. So I actually lived in a fraternity house as a graduate advisor at Miami, and I got paid to do so. So it was just a combination of that. I couldn't turn it down.
Can I ask what fraternity that was?
Yeah, sure. Kappa Sigma.
Okay. All right. I was a ZBT.
We were right across from ZBT.
Okay. Nice. So what point, I like to know this about people since we are Lawyer Stories, what point did you know you wanted to become a lawyer? Did you have an epiphany, or was it just one of those things I want to go back to school?
You're the first person to ever throw in that last part, which is basically my story. I always tell people that I wasn't ready to go out into the real world at 22 or 23 and we just start grinding away. I enjoyed the student lifestyle, not because I'm an academic, but because I was just having so much fun. And I had been interested in being a lawyer, but I figured let's combine those two and go spend 3 years in Miami and see if we can have the time of our lives.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it was a great experience to be down in Miami as well. Do you remember what your first job experience was like after Miami Law, or did you go right into opening your own firm?
So during law school, I was we weren't supposed to work as a 1L, but I kind of did.
Yep.
And then all 3 years of law school, and then 3 years after law school, I worked for a small firm in South Miami. Guy was a real hustler, but kind of practiced door law. So every day I was doing something new, and I'm not exaggerating here, defending a med mal depot one day, because we were representing a doctor doing family law the next day, criminal law the next day. And I'm like, wow, this
Really?
is, at first I thought it was exciting because it was different. And then it was like, I'm getting worse at all these areas of law, not better, because it just shifts. Like, what are we doing here? So after 3 years, and I had always known that I wanted to be my own boss. I had that entrepreneurial spirit from a very young age, as my parents like to kind of remind me. So timing worked, and I started my own firm in late 2011.
Okay, so at what point did you decide you said late 2011, but like when did you know it was time to start your own firm? And like, did you have a practice area in mind?
Yeah, so I was on the litigation team, the mock trial team in law school. And I got the good thing about working where I did is there was very few attorneys. There was 3 of us. So I got thrown into all the hearings nobody wanted to do. So I got a lot of in-person, in-court experience.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I was just like, I'll continue doing litigation because I really liked it. Now, the point, about 2 years in, I had some time with the guy that owned the firm. We were flying somewhere, I think, to take some depots. And I just told him, yeah, I'm thinking about starting my own firm. And he kind of did well, maybe there's a partner opportunity and,
Okay.
that song and dance. And I'm not saying that in a totally negative way, but most employers just do what they can to keep people around, just like by paying them like just a little bit more, right? To
Right.
incentivize. So it was another like 5-6 months. I hadn't heard anything, and I was just in a rut, to be honest. I was not a great employee either at the time, and I just like I wasn't motivated, and I just felt like I needed to make a change.
I got it. So when you decided to launch your firm, you're in your firm for like 10 or 11 years. It's been going on, but tell us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we just hit 10 years this past November.
So Brett, when did you come up with the idea for Get Staffed Up?
First of all, the actual business of overseas staffing wasn't my idea. It was my business partner's idea.
Okay.
But in January of 2017, I was very deliberate with what I wanted my next business to be, and I wrote it down. And my friend was like, I can't believe it. Like you said what you were gonna do, and you've done it. Like, congratulations. He just told me that recently because we hit a good milestone. But I wanted low customer interaction, meaning when you run a litigation law firm, man, it goes back to what my law school professor said is when you litigate, nobody's happy because you either lose, so your client's mad, or you win, but either they think it took too much time or they spent too much money. When you do transactional law, then everybody's happy. So, and every lawyer listening knows, right? You got really good clients, and then you got the clients that make your life miserable. So I wanted low customer touch points, and I wanted recurring revenue, and I wanted something that was scalable.
Right.
And so my business partner, not at the time, he was just a really good friend at the time. He had someone tell him about offshore staffing, and he hired some himself. He kind of figured out how to do it, and then told me he wanted to kind of do that and consult for other people. And I said, well, you could do this. And I kind of laid out the business model and plan. And he said, awesome, why don't we do this business together? And the rest is history, as they say.
Wow, that's so. Just to stop right there, what advice could you give people who want to start a business?
Wow. And that's very, holy cow, that's very general advice.
It is general, but you can break it down if there's like a little nugget of advice.
I mean, that wow. I can, maybe there's something more specific you can ask me, because I could literally go in a million directions, not literally, figuratively, in a lot of directions, and give a lot of little nuggets. But generally speaking, when you ask that question, maybe you're hoping to pull something out of me.
Right. So you're in a law firm. You find this other path, like this other. You see a need. Like, did you see a need in the law for something like this? Maybe you could tell us about that.
Yeah, big time. So One of the things about running my law firm is for 2.5 years, I was me, myself, and Irene, all on my own, doing everything
Okay.
myself. And I couldn't grow past a certain point. In hindsight, if you remove all the emotion, and I was so tangled up in the emotion of new law firm, new mortgage, new marriage, new kid, and not having money and being stressed all the time. It was just so emotional, get in a retainer and I'm on cloud nine, go 2 weeks without any new business and I'm ready to jump off a cliff.
Yeah.
It's just math. Like if you're a lawyer and you want to bill 1 hour a day and you charge $300 an hour, then you know exactly what you're going to bring in that year. And I couldn't hire someone to take all the $10 an hour jobs away from me because I was so afraid of failing, because I had to learn that about myself through a lot of reading and just like digging into myself.
Okay.
I thought that if I hired someone and then I couldn't pay them, then I was a big failure. Well, what are you really afraid of a failure? It's what other people are going to say about you, right?
Okay. Yep.
So first of all, when you start to hire, you just got to figure out how to pay that person one time. Like you don't need to figure out, well, I need X amount of money in the bank before I can hire someone. I had this magical number. Like I needed $25,000 in my operating account. Then I can start hiring people.
Okay.
You're never going to get there. It's the cart before the horse. It's a very hard thing to learn, but the reason you don't have more money is because you haven't hired somebody, not vice versa. By hiring someone and freeing up your time as a lawyer, especially, that $300 1 hour per day can go to 2 hours per day. Now you're at $600. And I literally, this time I'm using the word right because people overuse that word, doubled my law firm revenue the first month after hiring someone, not an attorney,
Wow.
just someone to take all the minutia, all the little things off. I hired a law student that summer as a law clerk, but I gave her everything: answer the phones, take messages, send the faxes, do the copy, just everything. And I mean, right? It's just math, because now you're doing 2 hours per day and then 3 hours per day because you're freeing up your time. Most entrepreneurs will try to open a metaphorical restaurant and run it themselves. And it's like, who can you imagine a good restaurant where the owner is the head chef, the line cook, the host, the sommelier, the
Right.
waiter, trying to do the dishwasher, for God's sakes, trying to do everything themselves. And that's the way a lot of people try to run a business. As a lawyer, you just need a laptop and a law license and you can open your own firm. But you're gonna be miserable most of the time after the euphoria kind of wears off if you don't start hiring early on and getting, like, a business is a business is a business. It needs certain roles to function. And if you're filling all those roles, it's just so difficult.
Yeah, I actually like what you said about you don't need to have a certain amount of money in the bank either to do it, because I think once people start to see that you can delegate and get rid of the things that you don't necessarily want to do, it becomes a lot easier. And like you said, like your hours can go from like 1 hour to 2 hour to 3 hours. But I think it's getting past that point for a lot of people. If you want to put more emphasis on it, like you don't need X amount of dollars in the bank. So like, how does somebody who doesn't have the operating reserves just say, hey, like I'm gonna get somebody, go to Get Staffed Up and say, like, do they have to say specifically, like, I want a receptionist or I want somebody to, like, do some other task, or can it be one person? How does that work?
Yeah. Okay. Great question. So I forgot to finish answering your last question. Basically, Get Staffed Up does for a lot of lawyers what I wish was around for me, which is helps you get that first employee. Not only first employee, because man, some of our clients have 10. One client just hit 20 people through us. For so much less than you originally would have planned, right? When you hire domestically and you keep hiring domestically and your overhead keeps growing with your revenue, it's frustrating. It's like, well, where does the tipping point, right? Where do I
Right.
start to make more money so I could feed my family? With us, we will fill the personal assistant, executive assistant, or all the traditional staffing roles of a law firm, short of paralegal and an attorney. So you can
Wow.
have in mind, I need this exact person, or you can just chat with us and figure out what you need or where to plug that person. A lot of firms hire shared assistants for their lawyers
Okay.
who are not hitting their billing because they're doing a bunch of little things themselves. Again, it's kind of goes back to the same thing for the other lawyers at the firm that I was talking about earlier.
Okay.
Um, you can do receptionists, intake coordinators, marketing assistants, legal secretaries, billing coordinators. For God's sakes, everybody needs help
Yeah.
with billing and running the invoices. That's a huge one.
Right.
Getting rid of your email and turning over your email and your calendar to a dedicated assistant. It doesn't have to break the bank when you want to do these kind of things.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like one thing I kind of think of is like the technicality of it. Like, how do you give a password to somebody who's like offshore? Like, how does that work? Like, let's take billing, for example. We all know that that's like kind of tedious. You have to sit down there and like write all the stuff out. Like, so if I hired an offshore person, like what do you need? What info do you actually have to give to them?
Well, all right. So let's say domestically, you're sitting in an office, and then you have a new person you hired who's two doors down, right? You're gonna give that person through the computer
Mhm.
their own email address, their own login to that email,
Right.
their own passwords. You just take a different person through the computer and you move them across the world. It's the same process.
Okay.
And a lot of people have those questions. It's like, well, how? The answer is
That's interesting. Okay.
thanks to the internet. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
so easy now.
Okay. Except you don't get to go to happy hour with that person at the end.
Yeah, exactly, right. Well, no, I should clarify. We do a lot of Zoom happy hours with our virtual teams
That's
because
awesome.
having a really good virtual culture is as important as having a
Yeah.
good in-person culture. And somebody that's living in Mexico or South Africa or Argentina or Colombia, if you spend enough time with them, even though it's through Zoom, they'll become as close as most of the other
Yeah.
people in your life. And that's
Yeah.
not exaggerated. We had a client post on Facebook this weekend. He thanked me personally on the post and said, somebody that I employ that used to live in Venezuela and couldn't get married there because of the rules is now in Argentina and it is getting married this weekend, and I'm attending via Zoom, and I'm so honored. It's
Wow.
like, look at the lives
No, it's awesome. Yeah.
that we're changing by employing
Yeah.
people who really need it, in other places.
And plus, a lot of people were working from home these last couple of years because of COVID. So, I mean, everybody's sort of used to it. So they shouldn't be kind of scared off just because it's another country. Actually, it's probably less expensive. But I do love a good Zoom happy hour. So anytime
Yeah.
you guys want to shoot me the Zoom link.
Bring you over.
Um,
This is my friend Benny. He's gonna hang out for a while.
hey guys. No, that's really cool. So, like, what does the training entail for some of these for the service for some of the offshore people? Like, how much do
Sure.
they have to learn about the company, or is it just they just do the task?
Okay, so I'm going to back up a tad by saying
Go
there's a
ahead.
difference between insourcing and outsourcing. And
Okay.
you didn't necessarily ask this, but an outsourcing company is like, hey, here's a bunch of legal work or here's a bunch of marketing work. You guys do it and then let me know how it goes, right? What we're doing is finding you, the client, a full-time 40-hour-a-week team member. So they show up during your hours, they answer to you. They're not answering to us. So we cannot train people to work in other law firms that we don't run. So there's
Right.
not a lot of training involved. The training comes from you, the client, just like when you would place an ad and hire someone, you've got to onboard them, which we help with the onboarding especially.
Mhm.
And then we kind of teach you on a little bit how to train the new employee that you're hiring, although it's our legal employee, it's your team member, we're the
Right.
employer of record, so that we take all the liability and the stuff off you. But the success depends on the quality of people we find, sure, but also on, are you a decent person to work for?
Sure.
Do you give feedback? Do you put time into making sure that your employees are successful? Those are all very important factors, just like they would be domestically.
And so if this person's working for you, do you have access to them? Like to say, hey, like if like I need this this done a little differently. Like, do you have that like access? I mean, it might be like a time change difference, but it's not something that like with, for instance, like something like a Fiverr, right? I know it's different, but you send something in, they send back a product, and then like that you could maybe get it changed. But like with this, are you able to sort of contact them and be like, hey, I forgot about something. Can you just throw that in there? Is that
Yeah, so
work
that's
like
an
that?
important distinction, is
Yeah.
that a lot of people, when they hear a virtual assistant, they think of the model that's more like Fiverr, where
Yep.
it's, I'm going to hire someone and I'm going to give them tasks and pay for those tasks.
Right.
That is maybe the opposite. It's very far from what we do.
Okay.
Your team member should be on your website, right? They should have your, logo on their Zoom, your email address, just like any other team member would. They show up every day at your office hours, regardless of where they live. So if you open at 9, they're logging on to Zoom and their email at 9, and they work for you all day. So not only can you, like, that's what you do, is you're giving projects and then getting feedback. They're part of your team meetings, your morning huddles, your weekly sort of cadence check-ins. They're, like if I needed to get anyone on my team who's virtual in another country right now, Benny, all I would do is send him a quick little message, and then I could add him to this meeting within a few minutes, depending, how quickly they saw. But like they're working for you, so they need to be as accessible as you need them to be.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Like, so how long of a duration can you have someone, or for how little of a duration?
Um, that's a good question. We don't generally do project-based staffing. So if you said, hey, I really need someone to build a website and I want to find a good designer and then let them work for 3 months, that's not what we do. We're meeting college educated, qualified, and a lot of examples, experienced people, human
Yeah.
beings, and we just happen to have stay-at-home moms. So we're looking for full-time, long-term employment, gainful employment that we're placing with you. And so for as long as you can keep them and they want to stay with you, but short-term, it's not really the goal.
Okay. So your website, which is very nice, I encourage everybody to check it out. Says find out what it's like when you finally have the resources to be able to pursue your passions. I think that there's like a lot to unpack there, and some of it we spoke about already, but I didn't know if you wanted to expand upon it.
Sure. Our trademark tagline is "Delegate your way to freedom."
Yep.
And I think like a lot of lawyers, obviously a lot of doctors and other sort of professional service people, most of them don't say, I want to be a lawyer because I want to do nothing impactful my whole life. I just want a paycheck and that's it.
Okay.
Like most of us have a mission, right? Something we want to accomplish. And if you're just constantly overworked and overstressed, you never get to be the type of person you want to be and share your message. So if we can help teach you that the only way to ever stop doing so much, this is mind blowing, right? Very complicated, is literally stop doing so much. Like you have to give away all of the things you're doing and delegate. And eventually, and I don't know why delegate is a bad word. You're just asking people for help and you're paying them in return, and they're very happy to learn from you.
Right.
After you delegate enough, you start to add the resources to your team to create this machine, this business, which
Right.
is a separate entity than you. Like you are not the business, you shouldn't be.
Right.
And once that machine can start to perform and kick butt without you, you have the time to decide, do I want to be the best lawyer I can possibly be, or do I want to be the best rainmaker or do I want to write books, or do I want to, go on this, speaking tour? Like whatever it is you want to do, the way to get there is adding more resources, more human capital, and growing with really amazing people. Again, we don't, our message is not fire people you have in the US and replace them. That's not at all the message. Our message is, when you start adding in assistance that will help the rest of your team be more productive, your business is going to grow faster. You're going to hire more people in the US, and you're going to turn it into a legitimate law firm to be reckoned with.
I love that. I think that's it's just such a great idea, and it gives professionals the opportunity to really do what their passion is and want to do, while learning the art of delegation. Because I think a lot of people have trouble delegating, especially when a business is like their own, it's their baby, and they don't know like sort of how to let go of certain things. I could kind of see that a little bit as I grow Lawyer Stories. Like, I have a lot of stuff to do, and I have a full-time job, so it's kind of like, I'm trying to delegate a little bit of stuff. So I kind of see. So I guess the question for me would be like, how do you know when you're ready to get in touch with Get Staffed Up? Like, as a entrepreneur or somebody who wants to use your services.
I don't want this to sound self-serving, but if it does, it does. You're always ready.
Okay.
Every quarter, if you make a list of all the things you're doing in your life, personal and professional, every one of us, me included, and I learned this from a guy named Perry Marshall. He has a book called 80/20 Sales and Marketing. He has a book called Detox, Declutter, and Dominate. It's more like a playbook almost that we send to a lot of people. I love this thing so much. And it just talks about there are moments in our lives, and then eventually hours in our day that we spend that are $10,000 an hour tasks. There are tasks that are $1,000 an hour tasks.
Mm-hmm.
There are tasks that are $100 an hour, and then there are tasks that are $10 an hour. Every one of us, as we just change and we grow, we start to let things that we think we got rid of seep back on our plate and take our time. So you have to continually look at what you're doing and continually delegate. Every quarter, you go through that exercise. Say, what am I doing that's not the highest and best use of my time? Now, you may not be ready, Benny, to have only 10 hours a day and there's 10 different $10,000 an hour tasks. I'm not there. Most people, it's a hard place to get to, right?
Yeah.
But you can constantly replace the $10 an hour task until the lowest is 100, and then start replacing the 100 by hiring people to do those things better than you would do them, so that you can keep moving up the ladder and focusing on higher and better uses of your time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, like, what are other businesses besides attorneys that can use Get Staffed Up?
All service related business. We have clients now. Niches bring riches. We wholeheartedly believe that, and we focus and it's really a marketing focus to me, is what I've learned from Niches Bring Riches. Like, we speak to lawyers, we go to lawyer conventions, lawyer magazines, lawyer podcasts, etc. If we were trying to be all things to all people, then I mean, where would we spend our marketing time and money?
Yeah, yeah, niche, yeah.
And you would lose the message. So anyway, I just firmly believe in the niches bring riches. And we have, though, what you do is you still attract lots of non-lawyer or non-niche clients. So any service-based business especially, but we have a client that has a chain of swimming pool teaching companies that's wildly successful.
Yep.
We have sales and marketing businesses, dentists, doctors, CPAs. We've got a lot of different types of companies that use our services, because the principle applies, which is, how can I bring on really good help and give them tasks that my business needs done, so I or another high performer in my business can focus on the best use of their time.
Wow. So do you know about how many virtual assistants you have out there working for you guys?
Yeah. So internally, we added 70 people last year.
Wow.
So we're over 100. And then externally working for others, we're over 500.
Wow, that's unbelievable. So like, how has it personally changed your life? Like, do they help you on a daily or not really anymore?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I claim to be the delegation master expert. And then one of my mentors told me 9 months ago, they're like, you need another personal assistant. I was like, what do you mean? They're like, I tried to get in touch with you, blah, blah. And I'm like, I do need a second personal assistant. So I have two full-time personal assistants. One of them only does my email and my calendar, and the other does all of the little tasks
Okay.
that I need done. So again, and I told you when I first, I made my first hire, it changed my life. It's the same thing for a lot of our clients. We hear stories that I hired one person to get staffed up, and it's not a unicorn, right? These are human beings. You still have to teach them, but it can make such a drastic difference in your business that you can then repeat the process and continue to grow that way.
Wow. Where do you see this get staffed up in like 5 to 10 years?
We're already the leading virtual staffing company in the legal field.
Yep.
In 10 years, we will have probably expanded verticals, maybe even 5. For now, we're really saying no to a lot of things and just owning the niche. But a massive company that has made a difference in thousands of people's lives, both here in the US and abroad.
Yep.
Our recruiting machine on the back end, Benny, just so you know, the reason we find the top 1% of assistants is we're taking in about 8,000 applications per week to work with us.
Wow.
And through our system of cutting, we have a 20-step system where we just weed people out, weed them out in a good way. And then we do the interviews and the testing, and we put them through a flight academy to make sure that we're comfortable putting them in front of you, the client. That will continue to evolve in international staffing. I mean, we're just barely scratching the surface. So
Yeah,
there's gonna be a lot of cool things coming up in the next 5 to 10 years.
that's amazing. I think it's really interesting how you talk about, these people you can just picture them, even though they're far away, but they're like in the office next to you. You just like send them a task or something to do, or they know what they're working on. And then I guess you communicate like via email, or is there like a secure sort of network that you have? How does that usually work?
So there's a network suite called Zoho that we use.
Okay.
We are outgrowing Zoho, but nevertheless, you've heard of what's it called? Slack, right?
Yep. Slack.
So you can use like GChat, Slack.
Okay.
We use Click because it's part of Zoho. So we have chat channels where I can communicate with the entire marketing team if I need to, just the marketing leaders, my personal assistants, my co-founder, any other team that I want. So we have 7 departments, and those chat channels are really effective for communication.
Okay. And you could give them like your employees or the VA's like personal information, and they can handle all of that sort of thing.
Yeah, I do. I mean, my personal assistants, both of mine are in Mexico, and they know as much about me as anyone. We have yet to have an instance of theft.
Good.
We do background checks. I mean, there's really amazing people in every country, all parts of the world, right? And then there's terrible people in the US and all parts of the world.
Sure.
And then, it's like there's tall people, there's short people. There's like what we're doing is recruiting the best of the best, mm-hmm. and people that are want to be moms or they are moms, and they're married, they have careers. They're not looking to go through a really difficult application process just to turn around and steal a little bit of information, which I don't know what they're going to do with it anyway.
So can one VA work for 2 different companies at the same time?
We have had a few clients hire someone and then split that person with someone else.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But in terms of us, we don't do part-time. That was another business decision that we're very happy with. A lot of companies are out of the Philippines and we're not, so that's a big differentiator for us. And a lot of companies do part-time and we don't. And part-time, it's like, I got Mary and she's getting 20 hours here. So I got 10 hours for Mary here. Who's got 10? All right, I got 10 more hours for Mary here. It's like you're playing auctioneer with people's time and it's changing. Well, this week I only need 12 hours and what a mess. At the price points that we have, I have still yet to meet someone who actually put the mental thought into what they need to delegate, not have enough for a full-time person.
Got it. So what would you say is like the most common task that an attorney has a virtual assistant do?
The most common is their email and their calendar to act as a personal gatekeeper, time saver for that person. Like, so our pricing is online. We have $1,850, $1,950, and $2,050 per month. If you just save an hour of your time per day, you pay for that person threefold.
Yeah.
Just on that one hire, even if they just save you an hour per day. So I mean, it's really a no-brainer when you look at it that way.
Yeah, that's awesome. So like, Brett, what am I leaving out? Like, what else can you tell us about? I know you've done this a bunch of times, and I know there's a lot of things that you want to tell us about. Get staffed up, so we'd love to hear everything.
Well, I don't want to talk about our company so much as the fact that, like, I like meeting the lawyer who said, man, I really need to do this and make that first hire. Our best and most common clients have 2 to 20 attorneys, by the way.
Okay.
But like personally, I love the story when you had a solo attorney. They were at a very high stress point because they wanted to do more and better, and they couldn't figure out why they weren't. So they finally make the hire through us because they didn't want to hire someone domestically, and they wanted us to, as Tim Ferriss will say in the 4-Hour Work Week, it's going to take 7 tries to find a really good assistant if you do it yourself. Hire through us, and it changes that person's trajectory. All of a sudden they're more organized, they're responding, they're getting back to people, and then they hire another one. Now they're all over social media all the time, because instead of hiring a social media company for $2,000 a month and all they're going to do is 10 tweets and 2 blogs for you, right? You have somebody full time. You have a design consistency and you're posting. And it's like, wow, I wish I knew about this sooner, and this is amazing. So I would just say that even if you're not that person I just described and you have a staff, you are probably overworking that staff and giving them too much, and your business could be a lot more efficient, right? The output, which is going to bring in the money faster, help you grow faster. A lot of us know those attorneys that have the one paralegal, but she's the secretary, she's the marketing person, and she's overworked. And every Friday, she's learned to not be stressed on Friday afternoon because she knows she won't get to the 50 things that she was supposed to get to that week. Right. She's just throwing her hands up like, well, Ralph knows that I can't get to it all. Yeah, and it's like getting that person help can change their lives and make your business so much
I think that's a great example, because I've seen that. You got the paralegal who's like ordering lunch and like taking phone calls and then greeting people at the door. So I mean, not that the VA could like greet somebody at the door, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's a lot. That's a lot for one person to do, and that definitely happens with solos. But definitely interesting and helpful on how to delegate and hit that sweet spot and do what you really want to do, like your passion. Very important for people, attorneys out there, to know about what you're doing. So,
yeah, man. I mean, it's I know we're wrapping up here. I just want to say, thanks for having me. 1, 2, people ask about Get Staffed Up. I'll explain so it's clear, but it's really about the individual listening to this podcast or that ends up on our website saying, am I worth investing some money into saving my time? And at some point, like, you got to take the chance on yourself and realize that this person will save you. They will make you money. That's what employees are for. They're not they're not there to cost you money. They're there to help make you in the business money, and that's how they have their worth, and it's a beneficial relationship. So take the leap. It took me 2.5 years. I did it. It was hard. We also wanted to, Benny, for your listeners, is have an offer of if anybody's listening to this and they want to come talk to us, if they sign up, to give them $500 off of the sign up fee.
Wow, that's awesome.
Just because they listen. And for more info on that, we're going to have a special landing page called getstaffedup.com/Benny Gold. And so
Cool.
You can send people to that page.
Cool. Maybe we can do that on Instagram too. We could talk about that. Do a post, let everybody know. But that's great. Thank you for those offers. Be sure to get those. If I don't know if there's anything else that you want to tell us. That was we appreciate those offers to the Lawyer Stories community. It was a pleasure learning about Get Staffed Up and like your story. I think it's very interesting when somebody is a lawyer and they sort of pivot and now they're doing something that's actually helping other lawyers and legal professionals improve their business. Super important. So thanks, Brett. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely, man. Thanks so much for having me, man. I really had fun today. Thank you.
Yeah, man. So everybody out there, wherever you are in the world today, enjoy yourselves. Cheers.